Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you're fantastic day. Today, we're going to be reacting to a Noxus playlist, but the first video on the playlist is 31 minutes long, so I'll probably just react to this one and react to the other ones I haven't seen later. But yeah, this is called The Arcane, The Entire History of Noxus and Black Rose Explained. It's by... Hold on. A very funny name, Movie Balls Deep. So if you want to watch the video, I'll leave the link down below. Go check it out. Alright. Let's go. Volume's okay. Subtitles on.
Noxus is the largest and one of the most powerful nations in all of Arcane and Runeterra, where now their politics has started to even influence the lives of people in Piltover and Zaun, especially the Black Rose faction of Noxus, showing its thorns to fight against Mbessa, who has essentially taken over Piltover by declaring martial law. However, this isn't the first time the Black Rose has tried to infiltrate another nation, because in their 1,000-year history on Noxus, they and their leader, LeBlanc, have puppeteered countless regimes and states for the gain of Noxus. So let me take you on a journey through the history of this great empire to better understand what they will do to Piltover and the rest of Runeterra in future series and movies after Arcane. The story of Noxus started with its first unofficial king, Sha'an Uzal, or better known as Mordekaiser the Iron Revenant. 1500 years ago, he was once a mortal, yet brutal warlord king who ruled the lands of Eastern Valoron, long before the existence of nations like Demacia or Noxus. For reference, Piltover was only founded about 250 to 300 years ago. The main reason for Mordekaiser's conquest and brutality was due to the fact that he expected a place of eternal glory in the fabled Hall of Bones amongst the gods. But this all came crashing down on him after he died. Instead of the promised Hall of Greatness like Valhalla, he found himself in a desolate wasteland with eerie mists and other lost souls. This really pissed off Sha'an Uzal, as he had to grapple with the fact that his faith had betrayed him. Life after death was just that, a gray screen. This Hall of Greatness he chased was all a lie. What if his conquering wasn't enough? Maybe he just needed to subjugate even more people and get more land. This idea of conquering is at the center of being a Noxian, which has persisted for over a millennia even after Mordekaiser being long dead. Due to his indomitable will, Sha'an Uzal refused to succumb to the oblivion in front of him and started weaving his temptations across.
Ew. I love the look of the armor with the ghostly green. I think that's really cool.
All of the realms, and
if they make an MMO, I want this guy right here to be one of the big bosses. That would be awesome. Just imagine walking up in a game and that's what you see. Walking up into a dungeon.
Oblivion in front of him and
you're
started
like this
weaving
tall.
his temptations across all of the realms.
I really want a good MMO. I am just aching for another MMO. I played World of Warcraft a little bit, but I got really into Final Fantasy and I played that for a couple years, and now I just need a new MMO. That's all. And I'm really excited for League of Legends, but I feel like I'm gonna be 80 when they release it. Which even if I'm 80, I'm still gonna play it. Anyway, back to this.
Offered mortals his unstoppable strength if they dared to heed his call. This was a ploy, of course, as during the Great Darken War, some sorcerers banded together and answered his summons. They were determined to bring back Sha'an Uzal from the realm of the dead due to the stories of his great power. But since his flesh was long gone, he was brought back into a dark metal plate that resembled his old armor, and gave up on his mortal name, thus becoming Mordekaiser. And what did he do next? Well, he killed the sorcerers that brought him back to life like any other normal person would do. He continued to decimate and pillage the mortals around the eastern part of Valoron, using his unkillable might and necrotic powers, which resulted in him erecting a dark fortress which symbolized his terror and power, known as the Immortal Bastion, which is the current capital city of Noxus. This place would hold various treasures and secrets regarding Mordekaiser as it stood as the center of his power. However, these secrets would eventually lead to his downfall. But to go into more detail about that, let's first talk about the founders of the Black Rose, particularly a certain pale lady and a vampiric hemomancer who was directly involved in stopping Mordekaiser. After the fall of Emperor Azir and the Sun Disk of Shurima, many years before the reign of Mordekaiser, which will literally require a video of its own, a young boy called Vladimir was taken in as a ward to the Darken Master in Camavor. And by the way, if you didn't watch my entire timeline of Arcane video to know what a Darken is, well, Darkens used to be exalted beings known as Ascendants.
That's
and
one of my
were revered
favorite
as gods of
stories,
Shurima,
too.
but ended up becoming corrupted with the use of blood magic after the fall of their beloved Emperor Azir. One such Darken ended up teaching Vladimir this blood magic after he proved his loyalty to him by killing his own father. When the enemies of these Darkens united together to stop them, Vladimir learned of a way to kill these gods and ended up betraying his master, killing him and then absorbing the power. This strength plus the hemomancy that he already knew ended up teaching him the ways of mending flesh, giving him a near immortal life. At the height of Mordekaiser's power, Vladimir disguised himself as a flesh-eating barbarian god that the Noxy tribes surrounding the immortal bastion would sacrifice their young ones to. This would gain the attention of the pale lady known as LeBlanc, who ended up becoming friends with Vlad as equals through their mutual interest in dark magic and the downfall of Mordekaiser. So they ended up creating the Order of the Black Rose, whose first mission was to...
It's just me, but when I saw like Vladimir and LeBlanc together, the very first time before I even knew their history, I thought they were like brother and sister because to me they look related somehow. It might just be me though. They do something about their face.
LeBlanc herself is no joke. No one really knows who she is. Even her magic and immortality is a mystery, so it's insane that Mbessa has made LeBlanc her enemy in season 2 of Arcane. But regardless, she's a cunning sorceress who stays in the shadows and manipulates people for her own goals, which are also unknown by the way. Using his hold over the Noxy tribes, Vladimir launched his assault on the immortal bastion, and alongside the betrayal from LeBlanc, Mordekaiser was eventually taken down.
I can't take the name Vladimir very seriously because I know somebody with this really fat dog. Like the dog's on a diet, but it's just he's a hound and he's so round, and his name is Vladimir. It's the worst name to name this dog because he looks like a big balloon.
Down, with his soul being banished back into the spirit world away from his armor, soon to be forgotten through time. However, it is stated that Mordekaiser had planned all of this from the very start and is now just waiting for a chance to be brought back to life in the modern day. After Mordekaiser's technical death, the successful Noxy took the Immortal Bastion as a prize of their victory and began pushing its borders outwards to defend themselves and gain other resources till the point they gained access to the World Runes, which are fragments of raw magic which were once used to shape and create the planet of Runeterra itself. And Noxus, being Noxus, used these runes to fight against each other, and catastrophe ensued, starting the famous Rune Wars 1,000 years ago. Those who used the runes ended up destroying each other, with civilizations and land masses being completely demolished. And so the modern world was born, with many of the remaining Noxy, including Vladimir, retreating to the Immortal Bastion. They emerged as one nation, making the start of Noxus Year Zero. Then, at some point around 349 AG, before their first war with Demacia, Noxus becomes an imperial power. The noble houses of Noxus declare and vow to unify all of Runeterra under a single Noxian banner. They instate the first Noxian Grand General, and the Empire starts to forcefully annex numerous territories. The Noxians continue to expand their borders as they normally do, until they eventually bumped into their neighboring nation in Demacia, starting their first official national war. Demacia was a proud nation who despised the use of magic, with their weapons and armor made from a composite called petricite, which nullified magic. So through a highly trained military and petricite, they stood their ground against these invaders, but in typical Noxian fashion, they sent out their strongest warrior, the warlord Sion. He was the last of a proud culture that has been a part of Noxus since its founding. Reaching the war front, Sion realized Noxians there were all worn out and their morality was at an all-time low. Even the commander was done with the fight and decided to leave the Demacians be, but not under Sion's watch.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Literally smashed him by throwing him into the city walls and forced the demoralized Noxians to charge into battle. Unfortunately for him though, his team was done for, and he ended up being the only one charging into the Demacians. But anyway, Sion, using his ult, charges into the Demacians, but don't count my guy out just yet. As we all know, Sion's passive, right? Inting Sion spawned in, and he was able to fight to the bitter end, literally choking the king of Demacia, Jarvan I, to death, all the while being stabbed and beaten continuously until death. With the death of Jarvan, the Demacians were all
That's how, so Sion's dead too. I didn't know that.
all but broken. But the same couldn't be said for the Noxians. Although they retrieved Sion's body, the Demacians started liberating various nations in central Valoran, who in turn helped them fight the Noxians, pushing their borders towards the east for the next 50 years. However, the warlord's story doesn't end there, as the war against Demacia rages on once again. The then Emperor of Noxus, Borum Darkwill, requested the help of the Black Rose in a desperate attempt to resurrect Sion. By this time, the Black Rose had ended up taking in more and more nobles and powerful sorcerers since Mordekaiser's death, similar to our real-world conspiracy organizations like the Illuminati. One such example is the noble known as Lady Elise, who belonged to one of the oldest houses of Noxus. She was poisoned by her own husband, who she ended up stabbing to death. Although Elise did consume the antidote for the poison, it screwed her up real bad.
I'm gonna sneeze. No, I'm not. Yep. Oh, bless me. Oh. Let me get some tissue. My gosh. Allergies. The flowers are so beautiful, but my gosh. I have sneezed like probably 8 times today. So this is the spider lady. What was her name? Elise? Elise. She looks cool. I'm gonna know her as the spider lady though, and I'm probably never gonna remember Elise.
As she had ended up bedridden for weeks. However, one day, she was visited by LeBlanc with the offer to join the Black Rose and a promise of sharing secrets, power, and knowledge to those who can be trusted. And so, to prove herself to the Black Rose, because she did murder her own husband, who was an elite in the Noxian society, Elise traveled to the Shadow Isles, a desecrated, unholy site filled with ghosts and spirits, to gain a certain item for Noxus, the skull of the tyrant Sha'an Uzal before he became Mordekaiser. You know, why does LeBlanc need Mordekaiser's lost head? Is she trying to resurrect this again and trying to control him this time? Oh, hold up. I might be cooking here. That's what the Black Rose is after. However, it ended badly for her as she found herself being bitten by the spider god Vilemaw. Yo, that's like Kog'Maw. This changed her into a hideous spider, but her new master was not all that bad. He gave her the offer of immortality by drinking his poisoned blood. All Elise had to do was give him a couple of sacrifices here and there. Perhaps a creature like Vilemaw is also responsible for LeBlanc and her powers. Yo, hold up. But this connection to Vilemaw gave Elise easy access to the Shadow Isles, as she could freely move around the twisted tree lines, and even the spirits there did not get in her way. By the time Elise went back to Noxus, she regained her human form with the power to transform into a spider at will. Seeing this,
That is so
LeBlanc
awesome.
found a way to take advantage of the situation. The Black Rose would keep giving Valma an unlimited supply of sacrifices, while Elise would gain her immortality from him, and LeBlanc would gain free entry into the Shadow Isles to gain access to various relics hidden there. So yeah, the Black Rose is crazy powerful. Even powerful enough to resurrect Sion, who, by the way, had been dead for almost 50 years now. This
So he's
operation
not
was
dead.
spearheaded by LeBlanc with the
Okay,
help
I
of
thought he
her
wasn't
pupil
dead,
Vladimir
but I
and
wasn't
other
sure.
sorcerers, and so Sion came back to life. They even gave him Jarvan the First's crown for his lower jaw as a sign of respect. But something went horribly wrong, just like
That was so messed up.
it does every time humanity and mortals try to peek into the arcane in Arcane. Sion didn't retain any of his emotions from when he was alive. He had no sense of humanity left in him. It was like he was resurrected soulless, just pure rage and bloodlust. Proving to be completely out of control, Emperor Darkwill ordered for him to be imprisoned. It took nearly 100 Noxian lives to restrain Sion, but at the end of the day, he was captured and imprisoned under the same statue.
Okay, I was a little confused at the beginning because he was saying how passive he was and stuff like that. And I was like, that's not the Sion that I know. So he was an actual human, like a normal human, but big, like gigantic, right? Okay. Why does he have like something, a hole in his, I'm gonna go right there. Sorry. Okay, when he talks about him, that's the new Sion. Is there any pictures of like the Sion as a human? Is he a human? I think so. He does say...
Warlord Sion. He was the last of a proud culture that has been a part of Noxus since its founding. Reaching the warfront,
Okay.
Sion realized...
So he was the last of a proud culture that... Okay. Alright, where was I? I was right here.
To be imprisoned. It took nearly 100 Noxian lives to restrain Sion, but at the end of the day, he was captured and imprisoned under the same statue that was meant to commemorate him 50 years ago. With even Sion turning out to be a failure, Darkwill
Oh my
started...
gosh, I just noticed it is a crown. That is crazy. Oh my gosh.
going batshit crazy. He wanted to regain Noxus's original might, but kept meeting dead ends, causing him to stop listening to his closest advisors nor the Black Rose, which led LeBlanc to a conclusion: either control him or destroy him. Yo, she had to destroy Mordekaiser, but like if she resurrects Mordekaiser now with that skull Elise brought her from the Shadow Isles, maybe she can control him. Holy shit, LeBlanc's gonna control Mordekaiser. So she anonymously leaked information about plots to overthrow Darkwill to a young nobleman named, wait for it, alright? Wait for it, alright? Can we get a
Vladimir.
drum roll? Jericho Swain. By the time Swain became a general in the Noxian army, he
Swain.
ended up thwarting all plans against
thought it looked like
Darkwill,
Vladimir.
including
But like the shadow, with the long hair and stuff. Swain. He's cool. I love the idea of him and the crows and
the
stuff.
execution of the members of his own house, and even several members of the Black Rose, including LeBlanc herself. Hold up. Wait. He killed LeBlanc? Huh? Was it a clone? Was it a passive? Okay, it was her passive. One thing to note here is that Swain's own parents were part of these plans against Darkwill, as they sorted a secret power deep within the heart of the Immortal Bastion, something possibly related to the Iron Revenant Mordekaiser himself. But Swain loved his nation even more than his own family, and so he ended up executing them as well. However, this was all part of LeBlanc's plans. Yep, it was her passives, to make it look like she was executed along with various other members of the Black Rose. So Swain doesn't even know that she's still alive and kicking. This
Oh
was
my
so
God,
that she
really?
could take the
But he
backseat
has the crows around. When they see him, oh, they probably can't see her. She's so sneaky.
again and secretly take advantage of Darkwill's craziness. She realized he was completely paranoid of his own death and wanted to become immortal. So she started poisoning his mind with secrets of immortality that would lead him to another crazy idea. Let's invade the land of magic itself, Ionia. Woo! However, Ionia is a peaceful nation. They didn't even have a military power. They were just farmers who lived for their own family's sake, but Darkwill was having none of it. His paranoia pushed the Noxus cruelty to the shores of this amazing, beautiful landmass, killing everyone on sight. Not even women and children were spared, like how they murdered Yasuo's old master in cold blood. Since Ionia wasn't prepared, they were quickly overtaken by Noxus at the site of Navori. In the span of days, the Noxian general Swain and his army took the Ionian holy site, the Placidium, that held powerful magical artifacts that were then transported back to Noxus for the deranged emperor. However, with the retrieval of these artifacts, Borum literally forgot about the invasion and left his forces to fend for themselves at the Placidium. And this time, it was way too late. The game was over. Ionia started to fight back by using their ancient magic and dance techniques. So with the Noxian forces left hungry and alone at the Placidium, a 14-year-old girl by the name of Irelia led the rebellion against Noxus and attacked the Placidium. After a deadly battle, Irelia shattered Swain's knees and cut off his left hand, leaving him at the brink of death. But my guy Swain wasn't done. For him, the might of the nation meant everything, even more than his own life. While he laid there waiting for death to take him, a raven came down, possibly to gnaw at his flesh. However, this was no ordinary bird, as when Swain looked into its eyes, he saw the truth laid at the heart of Noxus, changing him forever. He realized that he was tricked to die at the battlefield by none other than LeBlanc and the Black Rose. She was the one controlling...
Okay, so that's why he didn't know she was alive. He didn't have the crows at that time.
Darkwill behind the scenes, and that he failed to execute her. This was all part of the secret power that his parents were reaching for deep within the heart of Noxus, beneath the immortal bastion. But Swain was still in a crazy situation. Although the Raven had given Swain a second chance at life, it was too late. He was disgraced by the nation he loved and thrown out of the military, where the people just considered him a mere cripple. However, Swain was not done. Using the Raven's vision, he traveled to the heart of the immortal bastion and gained the power of an ancient demon hidden by the Black Rose, the demon of secrets, Raum. Now, we can make a whole entire video explaining all the demons in League of Legends lore, but sticking to Raum...
Has he made a video about that? Because I would love to learn about all the demons in one video.
It became
Let me know in the comments.
Swain's power, while Borum Darkwill was reaching the highest point of madness. So Swain came to a conclusion. It's time for a new era of Noxus. Using his diplomacy tactics, Swain gained the favors of the Noxian nobles and greater houses, including the assassin's family, General Decourtu. This general had two daughters and a stepson who you may have...
What is up with her face? Is she... what? I'm not sure. What happened? Is that like a nose thing?
Have heard of. The oldest daughter, Katarina, took after her father, who taught her the ways of the blade and pushed her to become stronger, while her younger sister, Cassiopeia, took after the politically brilliant ways of her
story
mother.
too.
Katarina was so engrossed in her training when she was younger that in true Noxian fashion, she used to steal poisons from apothecaries and test it on herself. However, she lost her father's favor later down the line when she failed a mission he ordered. Just like I lost all the favor with my friends when I picked Katarina yesterday after going over this script. You know, I did really well. I think I might become a Katarina main, you know? Yo, don't show that. Do not. No, I did really well. That's my jungler was inting me. Anyway, her father reminded her that an assassin doesn't seek fame and recognition, but Katarina was having none of it. So in a casual Noxian way, he sends another assassin after Katarina, her very own stepbrother Talon. Their battle was brief but intense and ended in a draw, with Katarina getting a scar on her eye that would remind her every day of her own future. Cassiopeia, on the other hand, is a very different story. Her mother taught her to be manipulative and have authority in the higher standings of Noxus. But that's not all. Remember the Black Rose? Yeah, her mother was part of that too. This would later come to light when Cassiopeia herself would join the Black Rose after she foiled an assassination plot on her mother's life. But we'll get into this a bit later, as it was now time for Swain's coup d'etat. In the year 989, he ended up killing Borum Darkwill and took Noxus by force. With the fear that the Black Rose might be targeted next after the death of Borum Darkwill, Cassiopeia's mother ordered her to raid the old Shuriman ruins and obtain the godly power that created the ascended beings many millennia ago. So using a mercenary named Sivir, Cassiopeia entered the Tomb of the Forgotten, the last Shuriman Emperor Azir's ruins. Realizing she found what she was looking for, she betrayed Sivir by stabbing her in the back and opened the doors of the tomb to obtain this godly power. However, Cassiopeia's fate turned to the worst as the tomb's guardians awoke and a giant snake stone statue came to life. This snake jumps into Cassiopeia and bites her, with the poison searing her flesh like acid. Now, any normal person would just turn to ashes here, but not Cassiopeia. She transforms into a half snake, half human hybrid with.
So what we learned about this is if you get bit by a big giant something, you're going to turn half that and half hybrid. Because the spider lady got bit, and now Cassiopeia got bit. She looks awesome though. I remember the first time I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, that's cool looking.
With the powers of Medusa. Meanwhile, things started to change in Noxus. At this time, the war in Ionia was going
so she can turn people into stone? Oh, okay.
On for roughly 5 years, and Irelia had built a resistance capable enough to stand against Noxus. However, this time, Swain was the Emperor of Noxus, and unlike Darkwill, he wasn't batshit crazy, so he decided to cut his losses and pull back the Noxian forces, ending the first war in Ionia.
Very
yep,
smart.
You heard it right. I said first war because Noxus is never done. Swain realized that Noxus needed a new strategy, and learning from Darkwill's experience, he abolished the Emperor system and created the Triforix, each representing one of the principles of Noxus. This is a three-party ruling system where each would keep the other in check if they strayed from their path of making Noxus great again. Swain represents the principle of Vision as the political leader of Noxus. An unknown individual represents the principle of Guile, but let's be honest, it's LeBlanc. She's big brain. Whenever something happens in Noxus that is weird and without any answers, just think it was probably LeBlanc and the Black Rose manipulating shit from the shadows. Finally comes the hand of Noxus, General Darius, who represents strength. Darius grew up as an orphan alongside his brother Draven on the streets. They battled their way through the smaller gangs and later joined the army of Noxus. Anyone can rise to power in Noxus, regardless of their birth, culture, or family status, so both Darius and Draven were given a chance to rank up in the army, till eventually Darius became the hand of Noxus. Draven, however, wanted all the riches life could
Yeah, you can tell. Look at those crazy eyes.
offer, but
He looks crazy.
war can break a man completely, which is what happened to him. He went into depression and spent more and more time drinking and gambling, where eventually he reached the lowest point in his life, until one day he was found by the disgraced former general Swain. He shared his vision to reclaim Noxus's lost glory and gained Draven's support. But to be honest, Swain probably just wanted Draven's help with the intention to gain his brother's support in the future. However, after Darkwill was murdered by Swain with Draven's help, Darius had to come to a decision. He had high respect for the disgraced general during the invasion of Ionia and even supported him when he was discharged from the army. Swain explained to Darius his new vision for the empire, and so Darius concluded that he would follow the new emperor. However, Swain had different plans. He explained to Darius about Darkwill's folly and asked him to join the Triforix Council, which Darius gladly accepted. Now back to war. Demacia and Noxus' rivalry still continues, with Darius leading the charge against Prince Jarvan IV, who ended up defeating his entire battalion and sent him running back home with his tail between his legs. However, with Demacia having to deal with its own problems due to the Mages' rebellion led by Silas, Swain
I need to learn about Demacia's history too, because I don't know a lot about it. I know there was like they hid magic, and then all of a sudden there was an uprising, but that's about it. So next one I'm gonna learn is Demacia.
The new leader started gaining Noxus its previous glory back. And if you guys want me to do a deep dive on Demacia, where Garen, Lux, Jarvan, Poppy, all of these champions come from, hit that like button, let me know in the comments below, because Demacia, it has its own novel, there's a whole comic series, the Silas Mage Seeker game, there's so much in Demacia. I would love to cover it, so hit that like button and let me know if you want more Arcane and League videos. Anyway, Swain decided to start building relationships with other countries again, with the sole purpose of uniting the whole world under one singular rule. Under Swain's leadership, there was only one thing to take into consideration. When Noxus takes over a nation, it must adhere to Noxus rules. Basically, all the citizens in a country, whenever Noxus takes over, they all have to follow Noxus's rules and regulations. This is similar to other conquerors and emperors like Genghis Khan and his Mongol army's policy when they took over nations and cities in our war. One such example is of a family whose city of Amkara was attacked by a bunch of bandits, and the citizens had to escape and take refuge at a city called Belzun, which was under Noxus's rule. This family included a young girl named Samira who fell in love with the Noxian way of life and ended up joining their war band, and later on became a literal one-woman army. Yo, that's why she has that stupid, ridiculous ult. Every time I play ARAM, there's some dumbass team with Samira and Brand, and we get one shot. But unlike Samira, not all were happy with the way things were working out for Noxus. One such person was another young girl named Rel. She was the daughter of a noble family who, in typical Noxian fashion, lived with the ideals that excellence is measured in sacrifice. However, Rel had a secret. She was a metal bender. I'm serious, but she literally has metal bending. Let me explain. It is a unique power to control metal around her. This ability was so powerful, it attracted the eyes of none other than LeBlanc herself. She took Rel into the Black Rose Academy and trained her to control her powers by fighting against other similar students, which the council were clueless about. Bro, do these students all have bending? Every time she beat her fellow students, a magical sigil was placed into her arms, which in turn amplified her powers greatly. However, each time she beat a student, she never saw them again, and only grew stronger and stronger until one day she had enough. On her 16th birthday, Rel broke out of the academy and found the true nature of the school. Each time she beat a student, their magic was absorbed out of them, leaving just a husk of human flesh. Bro, they took their bending away. Who's the avatar here? And they converted these kids' magic into these sigils that were placed on Rel's arms. But to top it off, she found out that her own mother was in charge of this academy. So Rel was like, screw all this shit, and tore all the metal around her to create a armor and crushed everyone in front of her. Moreover, she changes the armor into a metal horse and charges away from the academy. So cool. She now seeks to topple the government who ignored the pain of the weak and only appreciated the strongest, which is literally Noxus in a nutshell. But Noxus isn't done yet. With a new leader and an even greater vision of expansion, they decide to invade a new nation known as Piltover. But this time, they did it different. Rather than violence, they used politics and diplomacy by using a mercantile clan known as the Medardas to infiltrate Piltover. With Clan Medarda established as a business venture in Piltover, a Noxian warlord belonging to the clan named Ambessa sent her daughter Mel to oversee the business interests in the city, which is where we get to the events of Arcane. Mel herself was not a typical Noxian. She hated violence and learned from a young age to be more diplomatic, unlike her mother, which is why her mother banished her to Piltover in the first place. And using these political talents, Mel would rise up the political ranks of her clan and ended up becoming one of the richest people in Piltover, along with becoming a member of the Council of Clans that literally rule Piltover. But why did Mel's mother send her only child away, since we know her older brother Kino died when they were younger? Well, to understand that, we need to get to know a bit about Ambessa and Clan Medarda. Hailing from the city of Rokrund, which is located at the shores of South Noxus, Clan Medarda used to be traders on the Shuriman coast, hence their golden aesthetic, which belonged to the Shurimans alongside the Reds of Noxus. But Ambessa is the main reason for her clan's success and hold in Noxus. As a child, she saw death firsthand when her father made her collect the blades of fallen soldiers after the battle of Hinderand. And so, embodying the will of Noxus, she realized that death was not meant to be feared but respected, leading to her becoming a renowned warrior of Noxus and was loved across her clan, including her own grandfather Menelik, who was the head of the clan at the time. But Ambessa's love for her family only heightened after her son Kino was born, and she decided that everything that she does is for the sake of her family and not the empire. And so when her hometown of Rookwind was attacked, Ambessa stayed to defend it even though she was pregnant with Mel at the time. Bro, Ambessa legit got shot in the stomach by an arrow, surrounded by a bunch of dead guys while being pregnant with Mel, and both end up surviving. Holy shit, every ability she can dash. Insane. Anyway, but it doesn't end there. After her grandfather passed, she became the head of the clan by taking on multiple family members and won. With her new position, Ambessa abolished weakness in her family to the point she ended up sending her only daughter Mel to Piltover, as she considered violence as a last resort. Unfortunately for her, however, this happiness was short-lived because Kino pissed off some really powerful guy and ended up dying at his hand, which after the events of Arcane Season 2 Act 1, we know it was the Black Rose. Though she loved her only son, Ambessa feared that the man would strike again, and so she would end up traveling to Piltover to meet Mel in the hopes of rebuilding their broken relationship. This is because of Jace and Victor's invention of Hextech, a mixture of magic and technology which was revealed to the world during Piltover's renowned progress day. After hearing the news of such a powerful magic item, Ambessa bet her family's future upon her controlling it. Also, Ambessa prioritizes her clan over Noxus, which is against Noxian standards. I mean, Swain got his own parents killed when he believed they were involved in the plans to kill the previous emperor. So it's possible that LeBlanc and even Swain see Clan Medarda's ideals gaining military power through Hextech as a national security threat, as they would earn that without following Noxian ideals. Now, there is a lot more to talk about Noxus, like the invasion of Ionia for the second time, where even Singed is involved from Arcane, but I thought that would be better off left for the Ionia Explained video, the history of Ionia.
Yeah,
video.
I need to watch that one too.
Series, I want to cover this entire Realms of Runeterra book, plus a lot of the stuff that's on the Universe Wiki. Also, about that, shout out to my guy Rubs from the Universe.
Is this almost done?
One of the moderators.
Oh my gosh, it is. Oh, that was the quick, the fastest 31 minutes of my life.
Video was incredible. Like, I did not expect.
I feel like there's more that you need to talk about.
If you guys want to help make those
now
cool cinematics I just did, like the Katarina versus Talon, join the Discord link below. It's the ABD Discord. I'll make an Arcane and MBD channel, and to make those, I need to first play a game of League with people and like act out the scenes, and then go on the replay and change the camera angles and things like that. It's a lot of work, and I only had like one friend available at 3 a.m. to make those. So
this is the first time I ever reacted to him, and I like his stuff.
Even better. And
the way he explains it and stuff is really good. What was I gonna say? Also, is it just me? Did I? Like I was saying, how LeBlanc and Vlad looks like they're related. Well, he looks like he's related to Vlad. Is it just me? Now they're all related. But yeah, LeBlanc's really awesome. Katarina's awesome looking. I've said this before, but she looks amazing. And Cassiopeia, I know about Katarina and Cassiopeia's history. I reacted to Shrima's stuff. But yeah, I think the next one I'm gonna learn is Demacia, maybe, or Ionia, because I've learned a little bit about Ionia, but not a lot. Alright, so the next video I'll probably react to is the Lure of the Bite Marks cinematic, but that will be in a different video. Okay guys, so that was my reaction to the entire history of Noxus explained. I'll leave the link to the video down below, so go check it out. And if you're new, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Thank you all so much for watching. You have a good day or night. Bye-bye.